Welcome to What's Left, a weekly political discussion challenging the mainstream left. We are online at what-s-left.webnode.com. You can find the link to our blog in the episode notes below. Please subscribe, rate, review, turn on your notifications, and share your favorite episode with someone you know. My name is Andy Libson. I'm a teacher from Oakland and a socialist. And again, we're joined by socialist organizer Kenny Cepeda and Jessica, who teaches English literature, writing, and environmental humanities at the university level in Pacific Northwest. And folks should know that we actually had a person write our show who said, "Is Eduardo okay? Is he coming back?" And I had to reassure him, Eduardo is okay. He is coming back. But it'll be after the 18th, I think. So
he uploaded his consciousness to the metaverse by now. He has no body.
Yes. And speaking of the metaverse, today's episode, well, it's sort of a little bit of a, we were talking about the Canadian truckers last week, and there's stuff to say about that. But Kenny, you had an idea for an episode that was going to kind of bring us into this thinking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution as not something that's just something coming, but it's here, and largely through the lens of advertising. Is that roughly right?
Yeah, no, correct. So, I mean, the thing that inspired this idea was that, I mean, I live in San Francisco, live and work in San Francisco, and I see a lot of billboards that are on, while driving, that are related to tech, things that I didn't notice before. And that, with the conversations that we've had here, and the subject matter that we tackle, it's taken a new meaning. Or like I see this advertisement and, through different lenses. And there's actually one in particular that kind of inspired this.
And just to let people know, this is one of those episodes you might want to look at, because we're going to be showing you advertisements and things that we saw online. But if you want to follow on just on iTunes or Spotify, it's fine.
I'm trying to describe stuff, I guess, as best possible.
Yeah.
So can you see the software just wants to see you happy now?
Yes, this is disturbing. I'll go ahead and start from you.
Yeah. So I guess, this is another one that was striking. I drive through like this particular street every day, and I see this big ass billboard, very vertical on the wall. And it has a person that's holding their head, frustrated, or maybe having some sort of mental health episode. And the top, it reads, "Software just wants to see you happy." And it's obviously striking, right? Like, and it's very much in your face in downtown San Francisco.
And just to say, it's done by this, I don't know if that's a company. It says WalkMe, which is a digital adoption platform.
Yeah. So it's one of the many tech companies here. I also did a little bit of looking into it, and it's about I think it's synthesizing your software needs and guiding you through and simplifying. But I think it uses AI for to achieve that. But I don't know. I mean, any thoughts on this image?
Yes, but go ahead, Jessica. You want to start?
No, you start. You sound like you're jumping.
I'm just disturbed by it. It's like that woman's look on her face is so like what this world is like right now, of like people being assaulted by images and sounds and sensory overload. And I could see in this time that people could relate to this person's face. That's just doesn't show it on it's just got a strain to it, and to see this line above it to try to tell you, to try to set you at ease, to say software just wants to see you happy. That is fucking me up right now. I don't know. It's just really disturbing. I have not seen this. I mean, I go to San Francisco once in a while. I recognize the sign that says your higher calling with college and stuff like that, but I haven't seen this poster. It's gross.
It almost, the line, software just wants to see you happy, almost for me, it sparks like a abuser type of like, you know, like the he just wants you to be happy.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's like, and I also just I think it's worth noting. Maybe this is just on my mind because it was a pattern I noticed as I was putting together the images that I curated. Is like, of course, she's a woman of color, right? Like, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
One more thing. So I also kind of noticed, I don't know if you noticed the same thing, that we're looking at her through the screen because there are those boxes, and I think that's her screen. And so we're looking again through the screen into her life.
Oh God, yeah.
And so I found that very interesting too, because I was wondering what those boxes were, but they are the things she's interacting with. I think the information. But yeah, that's one of many others. I can move on to another one.
Yeah.
So this is the one that really inspired this conversation to me, because it's in the mission. The Latino, community. It's massive. It's a massive billboard. You can see the cables of the San Francisco buses. In this image, the angle is not great, but and so I took it while I was driving through the mission. There is no way you can miss this. And so then again, you see the VR set on the person's face, also a person of color, right? Like I think you can kind of imply that from the skin, even though their face is obscured by the VR set, right? They've lost, I guess. We've lost the ability to recognize him in person because these goggles, deface the humanity out of the person. In my view, they're also holding the haptic kind of instruments, tools, whatever, on their hands, engaging in some sort of other world, right? While they're wearing athletic, wear, tennis shoes. The person is showing their leg. Right, like their tattoo on their leg, and on the right leg, and the left leg, they're showing what is a prosthesis?
Prosthetic, yeah,
Prosthetic,
or like bionic in this.
A bionic prosthetic, exactly. And so, this we in the context of us having conversations about transhumanism, this is kind of like, to me, symbolic in many ways of what we're talking about. That is not a future, like a sci-fi future. It's actually a future that is very much here.
It's ready. It's literally telling you our tech is ready. I think even, obviously, we can talk about the way that it really, I think anyway, exploits, people with disabilities and that whole narrative, and it's often used as a justification, frequently by people who have seemingly no real interest in people with disabilities and actually helping them, but it's often used just kind of as a stock like justification for all sorts of technology. Is like, well, it has the potential to help people who aren't as able-bodied, or other groups and minorities that face various challenges. But I also am struck by the tattoo. I think we've talked about tattoos before. Like I have lots of tattoos. I'm nothing against tattoos, but it's a really interesting one. I don't know. It almost has it's like 3 really dark stripes. It almost has like a barcodey type of feel to it. I don't know. It's very just the way that his whole body is just so roboticized in every way, like from the this is the Oculus one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually funny, Kenny, that I had this in my slides as well.
Yeah.
Just an online one, because I see it everywhere on Twitter, all over the internet, and then obviously here on a billboard as well. But yeah, it's like the tattoo combined with the bionic leg, combined with the VR set covering his face. It's just transhumanism on so many levels.
And again, this is also brought to you by Facebook. That's at the top in small letters there. And it's Quest 2. So I imagine there was a Quest 1 or Quest somewhere along the lines. I don't even know what this is about, to be honest. But what I do imagine is like, instead of watching this previously, we would have seen a PlayStation sort of advertisement.
A lot of the ads I see, and I don't know if this is one of them, I think maybe have been really geared not just toward gaming, but also toward fitness for Oculus. And he kind of looks like maybe he's, I don't know, swinging an imaginary racket or something, or doing some sort of exercise, which I guess the idea is that you're gonna want to exercise more if you can feel like, oh, I'm bicycling in the Alps instead of in my living room or something. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more about like wearables and, you know, the sort of like health outcome frame for this. But it does look to me like he's not just gaming but exercising. So like, you know, framed through public health, right? Another form of health propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, well, I definitely saw some of the things that you were seeing in terms of the suggestion of, look at how we change ourselves already. Here's just some additional changes that can be added and help people express themselves, be more themselves, right? It's your skin, but look, you change your skin. It's your leg, but look, we can help, you know, if you lose your leg, we can help put a new one there with technology. And now it's your experience, and you can have a better experience. And it is interesting. Like, when I was looking at this also as you were talking, and like, it's very dynamic. The motion suggests real like openness and movement. Like, it's not like clipped, or it's not like you're hemmed in. And not just the color, but the color of the background just suggests spaciousness and kind of like openness. But the reality is, under what conditions are people going to be using these sorts of things? They're in enclosed spaces. They're in places that you're not going outside, because you're having this experience on the Oculus and you're just moving around inside. I mean, at best, we're talking kind of Ready Player One sort of environments that we're talking about. And it's just very clever, all the things that they put into this, to take something which is really about the people being hemmed in, and so their experiences are being forced to be had in these boxes, and to make that actually seem like you're actually opening the world up through doing it. That is very interesting to me. Fucking advertisers.
One of the things about gaming that, you know, kind of catches my attention is that, like, I've seen, you know, like some of the tech in documentaries that technology used in like places like Afghanistan, where they're actually connected like PlayStation controllers to like weapons, you know, because like it's very like second nature to use by young people, especially the ones that are recruited. And so it makes me wonder about that application, right? For this, you know, the military application that is coming, that is probably already being tested, and we don't, you know, it's probably top secret. And not just obviously warfare, but also work, right? We've talked about that in, you know, Allison, in one of the earliest episodes, like a couple years ago, talked about like the possibility of, you know, what stops, you know, someone in another location in the globe from operating a machinery here, like a lawnmower, right? Like, or some sort of thing with the VR set and haptics, you know, and like basically like Google Street View or something like that. You know, and so, and like these headsets, I think that they sell them at Costco. I've seen similar ones to this. So they're very widely available, and they're very much already in people's homes. And we'll see again how these things are normalized even further without, you know, seeing the consequences of what's happening and for what, you know. Should I move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just want to say that, and I know that Jessica, you sent like kind of advertisement you had seen, and so I'm looking forward to seeing those. But one thing I do appreciate, Kenny, from what your presentation is, having these like in cityscapes, like they're actually in the real world. It is disturbing, but it's also, I don't know, there's something weird about it that situates it in a city that I recognize, and it's there's something different. There's something more real about this messaging somehow because of it.
It's like an occupation.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I actually think like it's almost more fitting that you have the perspective like through the power lines. You know what I mean?
God damn.
No, I mean, that was just accidental, but it's, it does capture something, I guess. I'm going to share another one. So this one, it's, you can't see it too well, but like I see this every day, basically. Another advertisement. It's called Osmo. And it says, "Hi, we are Osmo." So greeting, right? And then they have like a quote about learning. And so there is a kid, also kid of color, and that is facing an iPad, and we barely see the kid's face. And the kid is facing an iPad while interacting with like real material things, right? Like the building blocks. And then on the iPad, you have the same blocks being displayed back in a game situation, right? So the kid is basically being educated on their fundamentals as a human, of grabbing and like spatial awareness, how, puzzles, that stuff through the iPad, right? The iPad itself is educating the kid. And so, just any thoughts on this?
So they're like blocks, you said?
Yeah, they're like little pieces of like blocks. They don't stack up. They more like lay on the table, but you make figures with that are instructed by the iPad. And so you're supposed to mimic what the iPad is saying.
Right. So it looks like either the kid does something with real somewhat three-dimensional objects in the real world that are either mimicked on the screen, or in response to the things on the screen, the kid is doing something with a real three-dimensional object, but they're trying to create that interface between the real world and the digital world, and calling that education.
Yeah,
I just hear, every time I hear building blocks now, I just hear it in Klaus Schwab's voice, and he says like, the vaccines are the foundation, the building blocks for the fourth industrial revolution. It's like that collapsing of, material with digital.
And I think that's important what you just said, that it's quite, for me at least, this is quite literally building blocks, because they are wiring a kid, to make that association and, and be used to interacting with a screen in their fundamental years, or when they're supposed to be socializing and like just learning from experiencing the world. But here we are, this is who they want, right? Like who they really want, the kids that are going to shape this society like in 20 years.
The other thing that's interesting to me is that the advertising method here. Hi, we're Osmo. Like the very kind of, hey, we're introducing ourselves. Like it's almost polite. It's friendly. It is saying, you don't know us, but we'd like you to get to know us. We're introducing ourselves to you. Like these motherfuckers are smart again. Like this is what they're doing. They're trying to bring, and in a friendly way, bring families, because this is not pitched to kids, this is pitched to adults. To say, hey, we're here to help you. We're here to educate you, help you educate your kid, make them smarter, prepare them for the future. Hi, we're Osmo. I really would like to know what Osmo means. Like, I don't know if somebody wants to look it up just to see if I'll bet you there's some sort of demonic thing going on somehow.
It's like osmosis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway, it's just.
Oh, well, and the iPad, I feel like has become such a like symbol, or it's just plays such an interesting role in the context of parenting. So I don't have children, but my partner always jokes that like when you just hand your kid the iPad, like at that point you've just given up. And he's kidding. That's unfair, but it has become like this kind of you need an hour, or you need your kid to like fixate on something so that you can get work done, or clean the kitchen or whatever it may be, right? Especially during COVID era when all the kids, were not permitted to go to school. So yeah, hi, like here it is. It's so inviting.
Yeah. And
Actually looked it up, like, and I saw a review of it in like a website for mummies. It said DCmummy.com or something like that. Right? And so, and the review was about exactly what you're just describing. That some mother that was too busy with 4 other kids, and that this was wonderful in helping her handle her crazy household.
And I also think it's
crazy. Why don't we ask why her household's so crazy and why she doesn't have any support besides an iPad?
Yeah. What's interesting to me also is this world of mimicry, this world of of preparing for you to do this as instructed in the real world. And whether it's either, it just seems to be preparing people for the idea that the digital world will much more start to shape the actual real world, and that's something that we welcome. And it's interesting to me also that there's the other artwork that people like. There's the spray painting and stuff like that that's going on. Obviously, it's not part of the advertising, and I just think about creativity, and I think about making things that are done from the vantage point of an actual creator who wants to do it, which is what those spray paints are, versus whatever that kid is being done. What that kid is doing is not creation; it's mimicking. It's like taking orders.
So it's the same osmosis, but it's another advertisement. It's from a different angle. Hands-on learning for your little genius. Again, they're selling it to parents. Obviously, it's not about the kids. And from what I read about this product, it's like it comes with an iPad stand and like some other boxes with little things that interact together with the iPad, and they're registering, I think, the kids' interaction with this like pad at the bottom. And so it's just very interesting. They're definitely going targeting parents in this way. And then let me see, I can move.
Like backhanded flattery in that one is so gross. For your little genius.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen this, but yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant.
No, but yeah, so this is also on the freeway, and it says background checks for a fairer future. In Checker. Another online company that's offering, safety and fairness, I guess, and equality and social justice. Because we've discussed that in the show, right, as a framework for a lot of these things. DARPA, a lot of DARPA projects are, regarding like the human brain, they're framed under the idea of helping people with PTSD, for example, or like amputees, and so, but these background checks for a fairer future, I don't know if you have any thoughts or evokes anything.
Will somebody first try to explain how background checks produce just on the face of it, just from the advertisement, can someone connect background checks and a fairer future? I don't think I even know how to put those together.
I think like the idea that we're all supposed to start from like a level playing field. It's bullshit, of course, but yeah, like I think background checks, I immediately think guns is where my mind goes, but yeah, from like a credit standpoint.
I think background checks to me says, have you been in prison before? What's your credit?
Are you dangerous?
What's your credit rating? Are you from this country? Of course, now it's like vaccinated. It will be a piece of that. Background checks have historically been the opposite. They're literally the opposite of anything fair. I don't even know how you put those two things together, like in anyone's head. Like background checks have been the basis for keeping whole sets of people in greater oppression than maybe other people. I don't even understand how those two can be put together. Like, I'm not being facetious. I'm just wondering.
I think it's the same way that people invoke fairness with vaccines and masks, like this idea that like it's only fair for everyone to do their part and like you're not allowed to be a threat, right? In the same way that, you know, being an immigrant could be seen as a threat, right? Or being unvaccinated, being in debt, having gone to prison for a petty nonviolent crime. But yeah, I mean, it's untrue. But I do think that, yeah, it just reminds me of, I've heard fairness invoked a lot in terms of like, well, you can choose to not get your vaccine, but then be fair, like don't come in the store.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think there is like a, you know, the things that you mentioned, Lipson, about what the things that background checks check for, right? They've historically been about crime, right? "Quote unquote" crime. And so, but now, like, I wonder if this also includes things like your social media accounts, because I've known of people who whose potential employers look at their social media, you know, as part of their hiring process. And so I wonder if this too, you know, is part of that, and what will background checks be like in the future, right?
Yeah.
What other information will they look at, you know, in terms of who you are? Because that's what a background check, I think, is fundamentally about, like identifying you, right, and having an idea of you as a person. And so, you know, we've talked about in like the multitude of ways that they're tracking ourselves, our data.
Yeah. Well, so for me, I'm sorry, I actually think there literally is no way you can connect background check to fairness. Like, I don't even think you can like, there some of these things we've been watching or looking at, you can see how they sell it. Like, you can see the trajectory of it. I can't read this as anything other than saying to people who are living in fear that those of you who are in fear and are doing as you are told, you're going to be better off. Like, that's what this thing tells me. That's it. It only can be a message to those people who are literally playing by the rules that the state is now constructing for them and saying, if you play by our rules, you will get treated fairly, meaning you're going to be out of this world of mess that we're making for people. You might get through. I can't read this any other way.
I agree with you, and that was kind of my segue to me, because to me this tactic is not new. Like, we know this, you know, they sell us fear, you know, like look at elections, right? Like, I think was it Nixon or Bush, I don't know who, but they used this you know, like black man that was on parole, you know, and they were like, you know, saying how he committed a crime because he wasn't, like, you know, allowed to leave. And so again, just fear is not new, right? To advance these things that are not good for anybody or for the society as a whole. Absolutely. And so my biggest question here is like, well, most people actually do buy into that narrative. It's not new. You know, like a lot of people do, like even black communities themselves, you know, have advocated for more policing of their communities, right? Because of these brainwashing and this propaganda, right? That exaggerates an issue, you know, of safety, or this sells this illusion of safety by the authorities or the people that look at the backgrounds of criminals or potentially hazardous people to our society, you know, and there is this, like, I think, illusion that we can sanitize, you know, bad things from happening completely in a society. And so I think that's what drives people to just like look at this, and an average person and won't see a big deal. Like, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you know, like, what is your fear? That's literally a thing that I hear from people as a counter, right? Like, oh, Kenny, but like, if you're playing by the rules, basically, like, you'll be fine. So you can never question the rules, and who's determining those rules?
Yeah, and it's very, like, again, these people are not stupid. The background color to this is black. It's dark. Like, they are trying to this is set in an environment of fear. And of course, there's those pink words, fair future, that try to like say there's some hope here. Look, there's your hope. And here's how you get out. Here's how you keep yourself from going into the dark hole, you know, that we have planned for most everyone. You know, so it's amazing to me because I I think people who are seeing this subconsciously know that we are living in a world of fear of a state and corporations that are really fucking us all over, and that there's a tremendous amount of fear about acknowledging that, even because if you start to acknowledge it, then you become some of the untouchables. You become among the unvaxxed and among the domestic terrorists and things like that. There's fear to even acknowledge. So these people live in that box of fear, and this kind of advertisement is directed right at them to say, if you just do as you're told, you will not face that dark future we have for most everyone else. It's crazy to me, but that's really what I think these people are saying. This is not even selling the cops to black people. This is literally saying we're putting everyone in a prison, but your situation will not be as bad. It will be fair, if you will, for you, if you just do as you're told.
It's I don't know, Jessica, do you have any thoughts? Or
No, I think you said it really well, especially that part about, you can't question the rules. Like, if you just play by the rules and you'll be fine. Like, how many times have we all been told that within the past 2 years?
no, so yeah, it's like, I guess it's what you're saying exactly. It's like it's a threat to you, the reader, not a selling of protection from others.
Correct. This is somebody who comes in to your house, your business, and said, "You have a very nice place here. It would be a shame if something bad would happen."
Exactly.
And background checks too. I mean, it's the whole industry, right? It's always it's a third party, right? Every time you have to do a background check, like for an employer or something, it's not actually the employer conducting that background check. They pay a third party to do it. So it's all fucking capitalism again.
Yeah, and especially in a society that is disassociated from each other, right? Like, you don't know who the hell the people you work with, at times, like, you don't even know them well. Like, so, obviously your fear is of the other, or the unknown is taken advantage of, because if we live in communities, at least that's my thought, like, that we know people, that's the community I grew up in, like, there was no need for cops or like, police, cops, teachers. Like, the community would report to my mom, like, if we were in trouble, or if we, were doing something that we weren't supposed to do, or they would just call attention, and trust, that we would listen to them too. And so, at least that's just one way that I think it was.
Yeah, and I'd be curious, Jessica, because we both have had recent employment changes, which means we've had recent interviews, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I believe that if if the world of my interview was done in the world of Checker, I don't think I'd get my job. Like, my interview was done by me, which seems a little more old school to me. Some people saw my name on a Indeed thing. Like, I had opened myself up for, like, and they were looking for teachers. I'm a physics teacher, and they were looking for a science teacher. They found a name. They contacted me. I talked to somebody through Zoom, actually, and then I go and do a lesson in person and meet them in person. And it's that experience of actually them meeting me, meeting them, that shapes the possibility of my employment there, based on what they had an experience of me, I had an experience of them. Once you get these sorts of institutions in, that just takes all that out. Like, there isn't, you don't bring you anymore. It's like they're just looking at a whole set of other things. I just feel like I look like a completely different employee from a group like Checker versus what I was able to do and what was able to happen through the interview process with my new school.
Yeah, it's like we're supposed to trust a corporation or a third party, some anonymous entity, to evaluate people's value in any given context more than, like in Kenny's example, like your actual community that you grew up in and who know you. Yeah. And they love that word trust, right? Like World Economic Forum, wasn't that like their theme or whatever for last year or this year? Like, we've got to gain public trust, and we have to shift it from people to corporations, states, public-private partnerships, all of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do one real quick, and then just the name of this company is just very interesting. Do you see the still depend on a few sellers to meet quota? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but the company name, we're driving fast. The company name is Mine Tickle.
So creepy.
Fuck.
It's just, that was just like, it's almost like they're laughing at us, like.
It's like the nudge thing, just like the language, like weird, like bodily stuff, like combined with these corporate, like tech. It's just creepy.
Like a little finger coming into your brain through your skull and trying to tickle your brain.
Remember how Facebook used to have that poke thing? Like you could poke someone, and it was like literally the most pointless. It was like interaction that was just contentless, and it's weird.
And this is the last one I have for you. You see the Employee Without Borders?
Oh yeah.
And this is near the airport where my mother works. So a lot of the signs that I saw, mine tickle about work, about like, consolidating, and also there's another one that says automate everything. It's an AI company that is calling for automating everything out, and then. But this is one of the more significant ones to me. Like this one that I'm showing, it says "Employee Without Borders." The world is your hashtag. The world is your HQ, and so it's just like, again.
And the company is called Remote.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, remote.com. Yeah, and so it's just like a symbolic of what's happening, right? And
so is this like gig economy? Like, oh, you can work from anywhere. You're liberated.
Yeah. This is this is sold as, it's somewhat sold as freedom. It suggests almost freedom for workers to be like, oh, look, I could get a job from anyone. But it is the world of workers internationally competing with each other for the jobs, and employers being able to choose who is best for their whatever they're doing anywhere on the globe. It's
probably also like employee without health insurance and employee without childcare.
Well, that's the whole. That's the race to the bottom part. That's all that all that means is cheaper.
Again, I think this is directed to the people that come to San Francisco, the investors in a way. A lot of the advertisement near the airport is about AI to automate things. It's about, data management, like a lot of commercials, a lot of billboards where, Salesforce, the cloud, is a company that like basically does analytics for data for companies. And so they partner up with like Mercedes-Benz, with JetBlue, with like other companies to, and so they're advertising that they're in partnership, that the cloud is going to help us, all like be much better. And so again, it's just that this is the thing that I see every day when I go drop my mom off to work and pick her up. And it's just coming into the city that is like more, the San Francisco, you're coming into a different twilight zone. And so it's just so interesting because I literally just came back from the Central Valley, and the advertisement is completely different. The Central Valley, where like masks are not required, like 1 out of 10 businesses do require it. Most people are maskless, and in this context, and people do have to show up to work because they work in the fields. They have to prepare sustenance for the rest of California and the U.S.
The other thing
look at the Shell sign right next to it too. Like, they've plundered the earth without any respect for borders, right?
Right. But the thing that came to mind for me is how jacked up this all looks. Like the Employee Without Borders sign just suggests motion and openness and expansion. And the world that this billboard is set in looks fucking old and fucked up. Like it looks kind of broken. Even it's Shell, of course, Shell, it's the company, but it looks like the 70s. like it looks fixed, like and not properly taken care of. And when I say fixed, I mean like as if it was set in a time and just stuck there. So it's interesting that this billboard that suggests such a different future, and it is coming, is still set in a world that's so kind of like ugly, kind of broken, kind of like jacked up.
And to me, it also like it's almost a defiance because like people like us who advocate for open borders, right? And because we think that's necessary, right, for a fair world and and for fighting the capitalist class. And here they are. Look, we're gonna give you a borderless world, but it's not what you were asking for.
Happy now.
And so it's like it's almost honestly kind of like a slap on the face, like to me personally, like I'm like assholes, like
yeah.
So that's it. That's my part.
So I actually would have loved to do what you did, Kenny, of like take pictures around town, but I don't have a smartphone, so I don't have a camera in my pocket like anymore. So yeah, what I did, which one? Okay, this one. So this one was, I think, this was a product that was released maybe last year, and it's will.i.am, from Black Eyed Peas. And he did this, it's called the Super Mask with an X, in partnership with Honeywell. And so I have an article that kind of talks more about it here. It's $300, first of all, this face mask. And it has like all these gadgets, like Bluetooth headphones. I don't know how you clean it, but yeah, so tech-packed face mask that features everything from noise canceling headphones to Bluetooth connectivity. And I think it's really interesting that he partnered with Honeywell. So Honeywell's like a huge multinational conglomerate responsible for all sorts of ecological destruction. There's Superfund sites all over the East Coast because of ground pollution, contamination of waterways. But here they are, right, like making this, it's got HEPA filters in it. And I guess it's like a sort of cyberpunk vibe. So I don't think this really took off. But it's a little window, and like the use of celebrities to popularize these sorts of tech. And then I'll show the other one, and then maybe we can like compare them, or do you want to?
No, I think we should look this one and then go to the next one.
Okay.
I mean, like the idea that they're selling a mask, like they have something in mind, like this mask is not supposed to go away. And they're attempting to institutionalize it, obviously to make it cool, obviously to make it something that you can really you can hide yourself, you can tune the world out, you can just have music blasting through your brain. They also I saw something about LED lights coming off of it, and they're selling a kind of transformation. And whether I'm glad it's not popular, but there's such an intentionality of saying, can we get people to be thrilled at and to really be excited about being masked? Can we make it cool, and can we make it something that people want? It's not something now, but when we talk about how kids are so masked right now and how many of them have acclimated to it, it really suggests a permanence to this masking. That's pretty chilling.
I some years ago there was a massive fires near San Francisco, and remember Lipson, we did an episode, and that it was the sky. We woke up to a red sky, and it happened in the Pacific Northwest too. And I remember like just the gloominess of that time, and driving through the Bay Bridge and coming into San Francisco and seeing this dense, like we usually have a lot of what do you call fog, but this was a dense smoke, and like it gave like a reddish tone, like as if we were living in Mars. And so I remember thinking like, oh damn, we have a future where we're gonna have to wear masks, because that was the first time we had to wear masks here collectively. It wasn't mandated, but most people did it because it was just thick ash falling on us. And so, to my surprise, then, like a year later or two, we started the pandemic, and now it's been 2 years of this thing, 2 years of working with masks, 2 years of people taking pictures and forgetting they are wearing masks, 2 years of people forgetting they're wearing masks by themselves in open areas. And so, yeah, it's just so much in the rain. 2 years of kids, just like you said, Lipson, it's just like they're being programmed again. And so now it's an accessory, right? It's an accessory just like an iPhone. It's and this is what they're selling you here. I think it's like you can add a cool factor, to your experience, and and it's so it doesn't. We don't even question, right? Like whether it's not even a question whether it should be wearing masks. Might as well make the best of it and give us some money, I guess. To these stars that put their name behind these things that they don't create. Like they, tech companies, or they come to them to pitch this stuff, and maybe they'll get some royalties and stuff to get it. But they don't create it. The people driving this, it's not the artists. They're just like tools of the pushing this stuff. But the people behind them are the ones who really like know what's gonna happen if it's worth taking a venture into investing in doing something like this and pushing it into society. So I agree with you, Lipson. It's been 2 years. We don't know when it's gonna end. They keep us on our toes. They keep saying, "Oh, you can take it off, put it on," and no one questions that. There's no resistance in masks in reality, and so it is scary. At least for me, from going from a situation where there were fires and it was hard to breathe and like probably dangerous, because we could literally see the threat, to now living in a society where the threat is sold to us. It's not tangible. They can just summon it at any time and ask us to wear this again. And there is no real questions being asked as to, is it really necessary? Is there damage that comes from this? You're just supposed to, I guess, submit, and might as well get a cool thing, right, while you're at it.
I remember hearing Cory Morningstar like way back in 2020. I thought she made such a good point. She was talking about how like at first, they were asking us to social distance and to not gather and stay home and all of this. And she said something to the effect of like, but they really needed something to sell, right? Like that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to like, just ask you to do these behavioral changes. They had to have something visible and that you could sell. And now it's like a whole new category of pollution, right? The single-use masks, and you have like Prada and Gucci masks, and just patterns. You've got school mascot, right, emblems plastered on them. I mean, my school like sent out 2 masks to everybody right when the mask mandate took off, right, with like the school emblem. And then the other one.
Hold on. Sorry.
We're gonna be here a long time if we're gonna do all these.
Well, it's just first off, you wouldn't even know that was Will.i.am.
Yeah.
Like that.
All you need is the VR set from Kenny's ad, and you literally have no face left.
Right. I mean, with the glasses, now the hat, and you wouldn't even like. It's very interesting how this is being sold. Like you remove. Like there's his name down there, but it is just, I don't know. They're just taking people's faces away. And because he's got these glasses on that are just like, again, you don't see his eyes even. And just the way they sell the color of that mask within the context of that blue hat that matches some of the blue of his jacket, the red that matches some of, like, he's just an outfit. Like, he looks closer to an avatar actually at this point. And I don't know, it's just something weird about that to me. And of course,
I think the main like criticism people had of this mask, though, like why it didn't take off, like wasn't any of what we're talking about. It was just the cost. It's because it's $300.
Yeah.
Like if this was $20, I bet so many kids would be wearing it.
Yeah. You can move on then.
Okay, so this one's a little extreme, but it was so creepy. I saw it the other day, I think on Twitter. So there's a video for this one.
Oh, Lord.
Can you guys see that?
Are those humans or are those like?
I don't know, dude.
They don't look human to me. They look like CGI.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
A-Ring, a wearable air purifier designed to generate a pure and refreshing atmosphere around the user's face. Graceful lines of the air ring naturally extend the human body with unseen usability, comfort, and style. Within the elegant air ring are advanced and powerful modules, a sufficient battery array, and silent air turbine. The generated airstream is filtered by HEPA, sterilized by UV radiation, and cleaned by carbon filters. The precisely delivered purified airflow forms a sterile perimeter around the user's face. The air ring is self-guiding and easy to operate. One touch and a snap is enough to disconnect the magnetic mask and firmly connect it with the main compartment in a single motion. The air ring folds and slides off. Simply slide on an unfolded air ring and you're ready for action. The Snap magnetic mask is for extra protection. Air ring is ready to go. Different masks and screens are available. The full face screen mask maximizes your personal protection. Extremely adaptive, reliable, and user-friendly. Air ring fits with any outfit for any situation. Ready for action. Open for communication. Free to smile. Suitable for fitness. Always with you so you can enjoy breathing. Uncover adventure. Air ring. Designed with joy.
I'm like not convinced that this is not just trolling.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
I didn't look super deep into the company. Like they've got a website and stuff, but I'm not convinced that this one is not just a complete trolling.
I do think it speaks to like, so at work, my bosses were super freaked out at the beginning and they were disinfecting every little thing. They're the premise that anything you touch, you could get the virus, right? And so that was the first wave of fear, that was hitting people. Long story short is that we've moved on like so much, right? And there's new information, if you believe it, and there's new information that even the CDC, right, that they have stopped pushing. The point is that my boss, who was freaking out 2 years ago, then now is kind of evolved with the CDC, had a blue light in the office facing the keyboard, because like he's afraid, or I guess he believes that is going to kill the virus, that's on the keyboards. And so 2 years later, this fear is still present in people's minds, and so they're willing to buy these like gadgets that are supposed to aid in make you feel safe. And I don't know. It's just crazy to me that people have not involved in their ideas about the dangers of this virus, even with like more information being out there. They're still caught in this psychosis, in a way.
Yeah, and Jessica, this is not trolling. I just looked it up. I mean, this is real. Like, you can buy it. I mean, I just looked up the company Air Ring. Let me see how much it costs. I can't find out how much it costs. They won't.
Love
Tell
the
me.
part where they're like, it's perfectly comfortable. It's like, this looks extraordinarily uncomfortable.
Well, the one thing I'm also wondering, so those lights that are being projected onto your face, is that UV light?
I think so. I think it. Yeah.
So,
Well, it's be disinfecting.
Like, UV light is can't. Too much exposure to UV light is connected to cancer on your skin cancer. Like, first of all, I don't even know, like, if you wore that too much, if you were a paler person, it would possibly cause discoloration in that area. I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, masks already, just the regular disposable masks for some people cause all sorts of rashes and stuff. There's a colleague of mine who she works like out kind of in like almost like a secretary. She's not a secretary, but like a secretary sort of setup. So she doesn't have her own office. And she was telling me like, oh my God, I've had like the worst rash like all over my face for like a year because she's never allowed to take off her mask because she doesn't have like a enclosed office.
Yeah.
And she's there 8 hours a day. So it's like, I don't know, if people are willing to put up with that, who cares if, you have a freaking tan line around your jaw.
your jaw. Holy shit.
I also know someone who, happens to be totally against all of this crap, but her kids have to wear masks at school. And she got so sick of washing them that she bought a disinfecting sun lamp, which I'm assuming is a similar like light technology. So you just like stick it under and you don't have to bother like washing it with water and everything.
Yeah. And that is something, I mean, so one thing people do for goggles, safety goggles, is often they will store them in a UV like container, closed container, and that UV light kills bacteria, kills anything that's on it, which it should, because it's cancer causing. Like it destroys the DNA.
Yeah.
It breaks up the DNA. Like it's high energy radiation.
But here it's gonna kill all the good bacteria. Like you wear this thing for a year, you're gonna have tooth problems. I mean, what happens like when you get exposed to a cold or something?
You didn't see the footnote. It said that it whitens your teeth as it protects you from COVID.
Yeah, like when they smile at the end.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just missing
okay.
It probably does.
Well, and the fact that the people themselves, they looked CGI'd. It's
like
very strange.
Weird 80s like Stranger Things music. Like.
Oh, I just thought of like Brave New World, like people who were gonna, like 3 years from being put to pasture.
Like wax dolls almost.
Yeah, it's chilling.
And again, this is not fact check or follow with science and safety, right? Like, people who question the vaccines are the unsafe and creating unsafe situations. But this is, out there.
And there is some impressive engineering here. Like the magnets that click onto things. It's an amazing amount of thought being put into this monstrosity. That's disgusting. And like, that's possibly hurting people. Well, definitely hurting people. Definitely hurting society, that we're being told that this is even necessary or even something that we should. And then, of course, almost trying to sell it and even selling it sexually. It's nuts to me. It's like, it is, again, it's the will.i.am thing. Like, hey, here's a person you associate being cool and hip and blah, blah, blah. And you can be this way too. And now, like, they're really doing this. They're trying to sell this thing.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up the like sexuality of it, but it like, there's like two young women who look almost like dolls, or like staring really hard into each other's eyes and sort of like dancing, and it's really weird and like sexualized.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like the people who are did this, there's something wrong with them. Like they're not normal.
Next one.
Yeah.
Let me see where I want to go from here. Oh, okay, so this was, yeah, we can skip this one, I guess, because this was these are from Twitter. They, like, every time I get on Twitter, I get the Quest ads all over. I don't know what if that's for everyone or if they've just, like, something in the algorithm makes them think that I really, am their target customer. But yeah, the same one from your billboard, Kenny, and then there's another one here with same product, but with like a woman of color. It looks like, I think, like a tennis dress.
So yeah, like the quote there is zombies are ready. Like, who are the zombies? Like, are they like the video games? Because when I see someone, me included, getting caught on my phone, and like I see a zombie, and now someone like fully immersed in this VR world, like, that's a zombie-like person to me.
Yeah, so it says, for people who maybe are listening, the VR you've been waiting for is here. Zombies are ready. Your squad is ready. Space is ready. Quest 2 from £299. I don't know why this one's in British currency. And then also, like, the refer your friends for a chance to win $10,000 in Oculus store credit. Like, it's a subscription service, you're not just gonna buy one. Like, you're gonna keep coming back. A year of free games. I'll go to this one. All right. I actually almost bought this product like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe not that long, maybe even more recently. So this is the Aura Ring, which is like a wearable ring, and it's mainly, I believe, for tracking sleep. But I think you can wear it all day and it'll give you like heart rate and a bunch of, health related data. So yeah, it's a picture of this like gold ring, and it says, know why you feel how you feel. Because you couldn't figure that out yourself. You definitely need a piece of technology to tell you why you feel the way you feel. And interestingly, this particular product has actually been mandated for certain, I don't know how pervasive it is, but I know like certain squadrons in the Air Force have to wear it as part of their uniform, along with, I think it's like a Garmin smartwatch. So it's actually required that they wear these so that they can be tracked and have their health surveilled more than it already is, right? For military who are already like micromanaged on every level.
I mean, the thing that Brandy and I have to probably remove this. We got into this, not the ring thing. We got, was it several years ago, before we ran into Allison, who messed up my life. We bought those little pads you put under your bed, and they tell you your heart rate and your breathing rate. And my brother had told me about something with your phone. You put your phone next to something and had an app. And he said, you should check this out, and I was like, oh, it's pretty neat. I know Brandy was into it. You kind of use it as a way of trying to get you a sense of your sleep. We got to unhook that damn thing. And she's going to hear that episode now. And after she hears this episode, I'm going to bring it up. Because like, it's just, what are we doing? I don't have the ring on, but we do have these little pads underneath our bed that, to a company, shoot this information. And I don't think we're helping ourselves having that information in the first place. Like, it tells me where my resting heart rate. I can kind of see it go up and down, per night. And when I'm a little more stressed, you can see it's a little higher. It tells you how long I was sleeping and when you're REM. I don't even know how good it does. So what this just tells me is, like, already I've been bought into some of this elements. And I just got to get out.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, it's not bad to take down data on your own body. I mean, I practice fertility awareness and I take my temperature every morning. But who gets that data, right? Like, who has that data of your heart rate, Andy, and who, on this, like, how many hours you're sleeping and Yeah. When it's attached to an app, that's not usually a good sign.
Mm-hmm. But this is definitely, I mean, you look at that little technology right along the inside of the ring. I mean, wearables are just coming, and obviously they're here. And Kenny, you mentioned it in one of the advertisements, and it's disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and not just, but yeah, this we talked about data, right? And like this, when we talked with Jake about the arc of history towards like a more like empiricist world, right? Like when you want to measure everything and every little thing, and this like this obsessive emphasis on just measuring everything is just, it's just exhausting, like, and I see people who do this stuff who are so into their Fitbits, their Apple Watches, right? And that gives them feedback on their daily activity. And, like, you really need all that to know, like, to feel good. And I actually see that they don't feel good because they feel stressed because they didn't get 10,000 steps in that day, and instead of, just like being in the moment, right? Like, yeah, like right now, damn, I didn't go on my run, but like I'll go tomorrow, like, and I'll just enjoy this moment. It's like, no, I didn't get my quota, and so you're being nudged already, and to a degree, like choosing ourselves to subject ourselves to that, right? Like, and I just can't understand it. I disabled the tracking app or on like the what this your phone. I have an iPhone, and they track your steps, and I disabled all that, and I forgot I did it until people want to compare our steps, and then I remember I don't have it anymore, and I feel free actually, because at one point I was obsessed over it. I was tracking it, years ago, and it's just not liberating at all. I know when I feel good. I know when I feel heavy, and like, I know when I've been sitting down for too long. Like no one has to tell me, and I also don't have to be an amazing athlete, to be healthy, and and like always be competing with myself, and I think that is an element of measuring everything you do and eat. Also, like also those people that measure every little thing they eat. That's what I see with these two. There's no difference to me.
There's actually studies, the eating thing made me think of this, where, two people can eat the same exact quantity of the same exact meal. And if you eat it in a rushed manner, your body's in a state of stress, maybe you're in your car, your body will not absorb the nutrients, your body will not process that meal in the same way that somebody who is sitting down, being present, taking their time, maybe they're in community, like sharing a meal with others. Like it's not just like mental, it's actually physical, like that whole being present. It sounds like woo woo and like mindfulness and all of that, but I think like these things, and I've totally been guilty of like falling into some of the tracking stuff in the past too. But I think it's not just like unnecessary, it's actually part of what over time, like if you're relying on this stuff to measure, like if you're succeeding in whatever area of your life, you actually start to lose the ability to know, like as the ad says, like why you feel how you feel, or you don't maybe you wouldn't actually realize like, oh, I'm feeling heavy today, or oh, I'm feeling tired, or whatever, and you just become more dissociated and more detached from your body, and then that leads to all kinds of shit, right? I mean, that's like a trauma response. Like, what do sexual abuse survivors, like, that's like a key component of that, right? Like, the only way to get through that experience is to disassociate from your body. So we're all, I think on some level, like, we're all kind of fighting that trauma response.
Yeah, and I would say that's the thing I was also thinking about, is looking at the know why you feel how you feel in a society that is really wrenching us from ourselves more and more and dissociating ourselves to not be able to know how we feel, why we feel. And then in the context of our own confusion, trying to supply this answer. this answer that is not an answer. Actually, there's no answer there. It gives you some numbers, but I do not believe it is an accurate guide by any understanding of what that word accurate means, which means close to the truth on sleep, readiness, and activity. Like it doesn't do that, but it does train us to look in the wrong place, and to look at the numbers, look at these numbers that are actually going to move us away from a right answer of sleep or readiness or activity or whatever. I don't even know I don't know what readiness is supposed to be doing. That's not what I think about when I think about assessing myself. Like, I do think sometimes, did I sleep all right or not? But readiness, I don't know. I wake up better. I'm more alert in the morning. Sometimes I'm not alert in the morning, and I have to make a sense of that. I can guarantee you, we've been doing 3 years of the sleep tracker, and I don't think I've ever used that to make any sense of it. Which I'm glad about at one level, but like, what the fuck am I still hooked up to this thing for?
You know who does look at readiness? The military.
Jesus. Yeah. Yes, and all this shit is DARPA.
Yeah, and it, just to go back to the trust thing from earlier, it's like, no, trust yourself. Trust your own intuition. Yeah. Like when your body has a response, whether it's tiredness or, maybe you're quick to temper a certain day, like you feel crappy, you feel like you're getting a cold or a flu. That's your body sending a message to you. Like, that's data in the most natural way, right? Yeah. Like, you should learn to trust that. And, if you feel sick, you stay home, you have soup, you make a fresh juice, you get extra sleep.
And people have done that for some time, and that is being undone.
Yeah.
But I think it's like implied in all this is the idea that you are also a thing that can be tinkered to be optimized, and for to be like essentially a good machine, like not a human who will have their downs, for many reasons, and have emotions, and and like complicated things that are not measurable really, but they are telling us that everything can be measured and you can be made perfect, I guess, and improved in a way. And so to me, again, it speaks to that whole notion of dissatisfaction, and that and we're expecting these people to tell us what that means, and with some numbers, and again, I don't see solutions, just like you said. I see more of like an actually worsening of that situation happening.
And then they'll have a product for whatever that worse looks like.
It also looks like Sauron's goddamn ring.
I know. So like Frodo, like one ring
to rule them all. And I just, what you were saying, Kenny, I just can't, it makes me think of Mind Tickle.
Yeah. You see, you're going to remember that name forever. We're geniuses.
They are so smart. Oh, God damn.
You ever feel numbed in your brain? Like you just got to get Mind Tickled.
Yep. So I can increase my readiness and activity.
There we go.
So creepy. Actually, this one, I was going to skip this one, but I think it flows nicely from what we were just talking about. Okay, so this was like a biosciences ad that I saw on Twitter that was like promoted. We leverage our discovery engine and intellectual property portfolio to identify and build the next generation of psychedelic and cannabinoid medicines for the mind and body. And then there's like this image of a tree, like an artistic sort of drawing of a tree, and it says, inspired by nature, refined by science, next generation mental health. So it's just, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like particularly that it's on psychedelics and cannabinoids, right, which are very powerful plants, which can be used in more of like a holistic health setting, oftentimes as kind of a better alternative, I would argue, than some of the drugs that, people suffering with mental health stuff, PTSD, whatever, right? Like these these are actually really helpful tools. But of course, anything good has to be co-opted and tinkered with. So you have, I just find the whole inspired by nature, refined by science really disgusting. It's like nature can never be good enough just the way it is. Like we have to improve or augment it.
Well, and what do those leaves of that tree look like? It's a brain.
Oh, the shape of the tree. Yeah,
it's a brain, and they are showing a brain through the leaves, like suggesting this brain. Yeah. And then you have these branches that lead to a central root. Mm-hmm. And so these cannabinoids or whatever these things are supposed to feed into your natural, like it suggests something natural, which is a root system and a trunk and things branching out into these leaves. But underneath it is a message of injection, of putting these things into your brain to help you be better. And it's so fucked up that they simultaneously take a picture which is supposed to make us associated with nature and natural, and describe a process that is entirely invasive and unnatural, and like not something that, this is not somebody going on a vision quest here. It's messed up.
Yeah. And again, who created the mental health crisis?
For me, obviously all that the things that you expressed, but I'm very curious about on the quote. Like it almost sounds like they're pitching this to an investment firm, or like a venture capitalist firm, because we leverage our discovery engine and intellectual property portfolio to identify and build the next generation of psychedelics and cannabinoid. But it's like leverage our discovery, intellectual.
And they have the NASDAQ thing at the bottom too.
Correct. Yes, it's not. This is not an advertisement for people. This is an advertisement for investors.
And it's just old, and I don't want any of this.
Like, I'll just have my psychedelics pure, thanks.
I just give me regular old mushrooms and
yeah, little shiitake
and Varick. I don't. There's something going on there with that goddamn name too, I'm sure.
Man, it's just, again, and we've talked about this concept, the whole how they've captured nature, right, and like calling things or evoking nature in order to sell us something, holistic. I guess that's the idea. But and even like in the names of a lot of companies, right, like the cloud is one that is so present here, that that's by Salesforce, and Salesforce is a massive, multi-billion operation.
The other thing though, do you see those wavy lines? Mm-hmm. What's going on? Is that just something? Is that just because of the image, or is that a fingerprint? What the hell's going on?
It actually, it makes me think of a fingerprint for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord Almighty. There's something else going on there.
That's freaky.
All I know is I don't like the fact that these images are simultaneously pleasing to look at and disturbing.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second because I just wanted to read a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes that really speaks to what Kenny was saying. It's from Simone de Beauvoir. I have it here because we just talked about it in my gender class. Okay, one of the ruses of oppression is to camouflage itself behind a natural situation, since after all, one cannot revolt against nature. Isn't that good?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, again, speaks to like why a lot of these people talk about this technology as evolution, some evolutionary natural process, for us.
When did Simone de Beauvoir write? Like, Like, what time period is she from?
Second sex was 1949.
Okay.
So 40s, 50s.
Okay.
I mean, that she's looking through the lens of feminism.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, the parallel is pretty clear. So this is a T-Mobile 5G, which these, like, when I was living in Seattle, these 5G ads with the pink T-Mobile were everywhere around town. Yeah. And they had the big, like, T-Mobile building, which was always lit up with these creepy hot pink lights. So no signal goes farther or is more reliable, with these, like, laser beams coming out from the 5G tower. And then the other one, 5G for all. So kind of like co-opting the Medicare for all, justice for all type of liberation language within this enclosure of the continental U.S. border. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on there.
And then that little thing there, no signal is more reliable traveling far and deep than 600 megahertz. It's the weird language stuff.
We'll all get cancer.
Yeah, I mean, this is a new area for me, and in fact, I do think we need to do an episode like on 5G.
Yeah.
I know that when Paul Hader had did it on one of our episodes, and it got taken down because he was like, 5G is bad for you, but I got real questions that I hadn't had before. It is electromagnetic radiation, and radiation is used to heat food. The stuff we don't see, to like shoot through our bodies. To say that we can just be soaked in electromagnetic radiation, it's lower energy, and just think that somehow nothing's going to happen. That is an experiment which is ongoing. And to be in this COVID period where clearly an experiment is ongoing has made me more aware of how many experiments are ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Hundreds, if not thousands, of scientists all over the world have talked about this and have tried to raise awareness of the dangers, not just to humans, but it's really, really, really dangerous to wildlife. Already the light pollution fucks with so many aspects of the ecosystem. But even if we set aside debates over the health stuff, one of the reasons I included this is because the fourth industrial revolution just does not go forward without 5G. Like this is foundational.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share one more thing that relates to this?
For sure.
Here we go. And then, so this is another piece of advertisement everywhere. And so it's about the Pixel 6 from Google. It's a phone. Can you see that without my...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it says, like, in big quotes, and there are massive billboards everywhere in the city. It's a phone, right? And it says, "For all you are."
What is going on with that?
God, these poor Black women. Every single goddamn ad is a Black woman. It's so fucked up.
But it's, like, again, this 5G network in conjunction with your phone.
Yeah, I see that.
It's going to tell you all you are, and like all you are is contained in this phone.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like enclosing her body, literally, like the borders of the phone.
But she's also coming out of it.
Yeah. Transformed, transhuman.
It's like the Osmo kind of thing, where the blending of the outside world to the inside world. Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, your phone will tell you who you are, right?
Yeah.
And everything, like all the data collected, because, the phone is the biggest sensor, right? That's what Jake has brought up. It's the biggest sensor that is around us right now.
Well, and those truckers with the idea, like, they didn't have to scan him because he'd already been scanned to get his truck, to be allowed to take his truck across the Canadian border, because he was vaxxed, and for all you are, right?
And we'll go back to that background check, right? Like, as long as you present your phone with everything you are, you'll be fine. If you have nothing to fear, right? Like, if you're a good law-abiding citizen, you're gonna share your phone. Why are you hiding?
Yep.
Actually, I have a trucker one, and this one I didn't actually pull this for this. I'm like a very aggressive screenshotter. I don't know. I just have folders full of like weird screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
And I screenshotted this last year. I can't remember where I saw it. But it's a trucker hat put out by Ford, designed to keep truckers awake on these long distance drives, right? So like trying to turn them into robots, basically. It's called Safe Cap. Safe Cap is designed to keep you awake. Does it say and alert? I can't see because Zoom is blocking my.
Safe Cap is designed to keep you awake, and it was developed by Ford and creative agency GTB. It uses sensors to track head movements. An estimated 250,000 Americans fall asleep while driving every day.
I'll see if I can find the ad really fast. Like the video of it, because it's really creepy.
And humans are a liability, right? That's why we need automation.
Okay, here it is. Yeah, I mean, they're just going to skip this and just go straight to the, self-driving
vehicles, yeah.
But it's still creepy and just...
Oh my gosh.
It reminds me of the Amazon trucks with the like retina scan to make sure that you're, I don't know, just enslaved in every way possible.
Well, it's just interesting to me that, like, there's not, obviously what's not questioned is, what is the situation that puts a person to drive themselves to like go late, like just drive and drive and drive to the point of they can't sleep? Like, what's going on in that person's life, in that person's profession? And the fact that it's so common in Brazil, a country of immense poverty, and then to think that the solution to this problem is the cap that kind of keeps you awake. God, I mean,
like, maybe just give the guy a break.
Like, why not? Let's make these more humane conditions under which these folks work, so that maybe you would limit these sorts of accidents. Like, maybe that's the thing that you should be looking into. Like, what kind of working conditions are connected to living conditions, are connected to having to make a living where you have to drive yourself so hard, where, no one wants to be in a multi-ton vehicle and fall asleep, and it's just, in many ways, it reminds me of vaccines that are being themselves sold as something that is supposed to be dealing with the lack of health in these poor countries. So we just can inject health into people in some ways. Like, that's the myth in some ways. Like, there's some sort of easy solution that we've destroyed these countries. We've made it so that there's some things that are dangerous for people there. So here we have a solution which is this poke with these chemicals.
Like this is a thread on every single image and ad we've looked at is just a complete disregard for the underlying cause of whatever problem it's pretending to solve.
Yes. Yes.
Right. We can look at cancer. We can look at any illness, and yeah, like it's just easier because it not only diverts from the issues, right, but it's also a false solution. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just everywhere. But it's just scary to me that like people know, like to some degree, like some of these things are ridiculous, but yet they're still present, they're still around, and so those same conditions that we should be questioning create the condition to not question these things. And because like people know, I think like regarding the vaccines, a lot of this stuff, people have like a lot of people that I talk to that are not very politically active usually, they have a sense that something is wrong, but it's like, what am I gonna do type of situation, and so that to me is more demoralizing a bit, like that they know, but like they don't have the energy to, they're so encapsulated in all of this nudging and stressors, and like, because like that hat that we just saw, like, it is ridiculous, but we ourselves are poked all the time in those ways. At least that's how I feel, and nudge and coerce into doing things we don't want to do, but we do sacrifice because we don't see a way to changing this tall task, right, of changing the underlying conditions of that create this craziness, and and also like where people end up fighting each other, instead of seeing what is the big issue here.
Well, for me, when I think about people accepting these things or being prepared to just take this in, I think about the background check for a fairer future. Like, I do think there's an awareness of how dark this stuff is that we're heading towards. But like, if you don't think there's an alternative, then the fair future is right there. If you just shut the fuck up and you tell anybody, this is happening to us, right? This is definitely happening to Brandy. When you talk to somebody who does not see what's happening and literally does not want to see, they will just tell you to shut the fuck up. Like, what are you doing? Talking to me about this. How are you trying to fuck my life up with your nonsense? And I mean nonsense because it's something that is actually a better explanation than the story they have. But if they go down that road, there's no coming back. And that's not a pleasant road. So if you want that fairer future, then just wear the hat.
Okay, should I do like one more?
Yeah.
Let's do this one. Okay, I wanted to include this one. Well, let me describe it first. So this is from the student newspaper at the University of Washington, and they have these ads every single issue. And they're ads for like basically like calls for fertility egg donors. And okay, 2 out of 3 are women of color again. And they market this, earn up to $10,000 through egg donation at ORM Fertility. Another one says, pay off student debt, build your savings, or save for a trip, all while helping a family. And then another one has a quote, I'm so excited that I'm able to help a couple with a baby who weren't able to on their own. So, I mean, maybe on the surface, this seems like a little bit of a divergence from some of the other stuff that's very like tech in your face, like Fourth Industrial Revolution. But I included this just because the fertility industry is a huge, huge part of the 4IR. And just like with this other stuff, like it's already here. This idea of just modifying people's bodies, especially women's bodies. I mean, setting aside the fact that it's disgusting that somebody would need to sell their eggs in order to get an education. I mean, the marketing is just beyond vile. I can't even, I don't even have words for the one that's like pay off your student debt. And in the context of literally a student newspaper. But I mean, this is just taking off this whole industry of fertility. Like so many women and men, right, are having fertility issues because the environment is so toxic and we're all so sick. And we're really moving toward just a whole brave new world of like synthetic wombs, you know, the whole idea of men giving birth, right? That we can just like cut somebody open, like stick a uterus transplant in, pump them full of chemicals, and then like call it something natural. IVF is, I don't even know how big of an industry, how much it's worth now. It's huge, like huge surrogacy. And yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, like they put a pig's heart into a human for the first time recently. It's just crazy. And this stuff of just commodifying fertility, commodifying women's reproductive labor, is just, I think it's really important, and it's often kind of like an overlooked aspect of the fourth industrial revolution conversation. So yeah.
Well, I definitely think about like the NIH studies that are being started now to look at what the effect on menstrual cycles and things like that are connected to these new these COVID treatments on women. I definitely think about the vaccines that have been used in other countries that are connected directly to sterility and to controlling women's reproduction. And the intersection of poverty and people's desperation with the notion that they will provide eggs for families that are in a financial position to try to have children, and so they can have children because other people who are less in a position to pay things off will donate their eggs, so that, like, it's very twisted. And it does make me, though, want to do, I think I will do one share that's connected to this, because this was something that's happening in China. Can I share this one thing? We're going to come back to yours. So will China's AI nanny pod solve China's fertility problem? So this is China, but it's China's ahead of the United States, but this is where everyone's headed. It is literally talking about how they're trying to train a computer to know how to feed nutrients to a developing embryo, so it can know how to take care of it. So that maybe they can get around the issues that China seems to be running into what they think is a problem of creating the next generation. And so they're wondering if they have an answer here. I mean, I don't know how much closer to the Matrix you can get anymore. But I mean, it just says that artificial intelligence will help solve some of our biggest problems in societies in the decades to come. And then they just say the future might be more Matrix, less meta. Anyway, you can share. Reproduction is going to be a big part of whatever's coming, because production is going to be a big part, and those things are intimately linked.
Yeah, I mean, God, yeah, so just men have been trying to control and exploit women's bodies, like, you know, since the dawn of time, it seems like, and it's just like, every time you think they've hit the ceiling, like, no, there's another way to exploit it. Not to mention also like the fetus in that thing you shared, Andy, right? Of just like the amount of just surveillance and monitoring and data harvesting before someone's even born.
Yeah.
Which like that, I mean, that is really matrixy, but they already do that. Like if you look at prenatal care, the amount of just unnecessary intervention and testing and half of it's not, more than half of it's not even like scientifically backed. It's crazy. And I was actually listening to an interview the other day with Dr. Suzanne, I think her last name's Suzanne Vierling. And she was talking about the sale. There's like a whole market for placentas and like cord blood. It's a huge industry, and just another form of like exploiting, feminine power and women's bodies. And it ties in, like to tie it back to some of the earlier stuff, it ties into biotech, because why they're so valuable is because cord blood and like placenta fluid, right, contains stem cells, embryonic cells, all of these really powerful like regenerative properties, cell growth, like all that kind of stuff. And so they will use it in like everything, like cancer treatment and surgeries, and like biopharmaceutical companies pay so much money for like, hazardous waste, right, at the hospital. Like they just take the placentas, right? Like why would you want that? And like your comments about poverty, like one of the things that Dr. Vierling said in the interview, she was just like think about this, like think about if a placenta is worth that much money, like thousands of dollars they'll pay. Why can't every child just have a trust fund, is what she kind of posed. Like why can't every child in America just have a trust fund at birth, right? So they're set up, they're going to get an education, they're not going to live in poverty. It's just crazy, like the amount of exploitation that goes on in medical sales and research. And then there's a whole like global black market, which she got into, which I wasn't even aware of how extensive it is.
It's just again, but if you just use the conditions that again, and you post it as a choice, then there's nothing unethical about it, right? Like it's your choice, and you should have. It's just so interesting that a lot of people, even like in different fields, are just automatically indoctrinated into seeing things into the monetization lenses, in capitalism, essentially, and like even like the bullshit ethical training that they take goes out the window, and again, this is not surprising, right? This is been happening, it's happening, and again, I think I am arguing that it's gonna, I didn't know how much in egg, right, cost. Now I know it's up to $10,000, right? And so that's gonna happen with other parts of us, every human. Yes, women obviously, in that very key factor of reproduction, but it's gonna happen. It's happening to our psychologies. It's gonna happen to, our heartbeat, emotional, everything that we are. Like again, that phone, right? Like everything that you are, and that's what this empiricism is about, right? Just like we talked about on the COP26, the environmental meeting. It's about putting a price on things. It's not about helping humans. The real drivers, or of these are the people that create those conditions, right? And make sure those conditions continue to exist, because they fundamentally understand you need those conditions to make profit, and drive people into like when we talked about anti-vaxxers, right? Like the single mothers that would bring their kids to the clinical trials over and over, because they have to make a choice, of and monetize themselves, and they're in the lower levels of society, so they have to hustle somehow, and ultimately, that again is the irony of all this, that they're framing it as protecting the most vulnerable, but it is the most vulnerable that are going to be thrown into the fire pits first.
And they never get shit from like the research, right? Like they never benefit from it.
Yeah. And I know, and I don't want to take it as just a throwaway line that you said, Jessica, but I do want to ask you about it. When when you had said men have been trying to control women's reproduction. Because when I look at because there is an attempt to control not just production, but reproduction. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't look like a male plot to me. It looks across gender, across race. It looks like, well, certainly wealth and power, connection to the state, things like that. I look at those characters, and those are populated by women and men, Black, Chinese. So I guess I would, do you look at this even when you look at those ads, because they're happening, like you said, they're happening every month on these ads, and people are seeing them all the time. Does that look like a male plan of controlling women's reproduction in your mind today?
I wouldn't call it like a male plot, no. But I think there's always overlap between patriarchy and capitalism and imperialism and colonialism. And I do think there's a lot going on with the whole like transhumanist stuff that I do think some of it is deeply rooted in a desire to take women's creative power and harness it and pervert it, like the tree with the brain, right? Which is not to say that like that's the only lens through which we should be looking at it. No, of course not. But yeah, I mean, I see patriarchy as a huge. I mean, it's built in. Like you mine the land, you mine women's bodies, right? This is kind of what a lot of what I write about in my like academic stuff is like an ecofeminist lens. And honestly, I mean, when it comes to the vaccine, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for not wanting it that I share with you guys in terms of like worker, desire for workers to liberate themselves and that. But I think for me, honestly, the most fundamental kind of like, not necessarily like from a logical or even like an ideological reasoning, but just from a sort of core like intuition, like I think it's like my like womanhood is kind of the base of it for me. And I'm not saying that's like the right reason or whatever, but it is. I mean, it's a needle like trying to penetrate somebody's skin, and I feel like it's just like, no, like not this time, you fuckers. Like I really do feel like there's just it's that aspect of it is where I think I am actually drawing the majority of my resolve, because this shit has been going on. Like I don't know. I mean, all of us, this is like a freaking marathon, right? Just like I have to attest every day at work. Every day I have to say I'm unvaccinated. And it's exhausting. And I mean, there's so many forms of colonization, that people have endured throughout time. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a big part of it, a fundamental part of it.
Yeah, no, that's not those sorts of words wouldn't come out of my mouth. So I wanted to hear like how you would, but it is interesting to me that I do think I share. It's not, obviously I don't share the question of womanhood, but I do share here's how I might put why I'm motivated to resist. Yeah, it's related to Marxism. It's related to capitalism. It's related to a belief of a future society where workers could run. Yes, that's up here running around in my brain somewhere. But the part of me that it is like, that has like a lizard response to this, is the idea of somebody putting something into my body that I'm afraid of. That feels like it could it could change the course of my life and shorten my life in a way look, I just had a thing of Mountain Dew, like before, I was drinking that, like that. So there's things I put in my body that are not good, that are not gonna. But there is something about this goddamn company and this goddamn moment where they're telling me to put something into my body, and my reason for resisting is probably closer to what you're kind of describing, which is I'm not gonna do this. Like that animates it probably more immediately than the political goal of revolution, which is something I do want to fight for, but is still more in my head than, although I will say, and this is more like a summary of my feelings about this, I can't look at these images that we're looking at and see any way of going forward with reform. This is not the society that is being constructed cannot be diverted and made whole. This will have to be stopped. Like I feel very strongly, like I look at these images and it does in a way that reading Rosa Luxemburg or reading Karl Marx, I could read it and know, but these images tell me there is no way we're going to change this by reforming the system. It will have to be shattered and destroyed and built anew by people who have a different idea about how society should be and how people should be with each other and be with themselves. Like that goddamn ring, keeping track of yourself. Like we're going to have to refine the notion of humanity and try to build a society based on humanity, not whatever that is. Because I see no way, like straight on Luddite, I see no way of taking any part of that forward into a better society. And I was just, Jessica, looking at your images did that. And then Kenny threw his images in there and God damn it.
Just wanted to say that, obviously I could never speak to the issue of womanhood, just like you, Lipson, right? Like, nor should anyone, right, try to govern anybody else's body. And so, and like, I guess this is the hopeful part of me in this, right? That it's, yes, this is bad. What we're facing is bad. It's a tall task. It's, but it also opens channels of exchange, right? Which I think is important, to understand, to have these conversations that we're having here, and to see like, because we've talked about how like in order to fight this, we have to come together, and coming together and staying together requires listening, understanding, and just accepting each other's concerns, right? Like, and it's hard. It's not easy, but it's gonna be, like I would never be in your shoes. You would never be in my shoes, and we'll have to create some sort of report to trust each other, right? Like, and based on principles, really, like, your body, you know what you want for your body, and no one else should tell you what to do with that. And so I guess that is potentially the good part out of it, right? Like that we like, even with the group, right? Like Workers and Students for Choice and the other meeting that we had, and there's people meeting from all walks of life, people I don't agree with, I don't agree with a lot of people on capitalism, or like how, like, that this is, we've attended rallies, and I've seen like people like with Trump flags and American flags, and to me, American flags give me anxiety. Like, I find it as a threat, and it's a warning sign of things. But then, and I also see people that are saying, this is due to socialism, and I'm like, okay, like, and blaming like the vaccine mandates and socialism. Like, I see the connection, and I see, and like, actually, you're not that wrong, and like, I see what you're saying, and and this is what I'm saying, and like, but again, in that exchange is where we find respect, I guess, for each other. Even if we disagree on some shit, because we will. No, I still don't want that society where everyone thinks the same, because then what the fuck am I fighting for? If everyone's just indoctrinated into the same shit. I don't. And ultimately, it's about autonomy of people. To choose for themselves. and not be coerced like the way this system does, right? It does to the poor, working people, coerces them into subjecting themselves to this experimental bullshit, and all sort of trinkets, and that's coercion, that's force, and we face force every day, and people face force in different ways, and like it to me is about recognizing that we're not the same, but also we are the same in many ways, and then we do need to stick together and be together and listen to each other and find a way to make it work, and that's where we're going to have these conversations again, to find the cracks, right? The cracks that can be exploited, and be a threat to us continue to be together, in the fight.
Yeah, on that note of like hope, I just wanted to come back to the de Beauvoir quote that I read earlier, and I was highlighting the way that, natural language and imagery and stuff gets like co-opted, because it's so powerful. But I think what's really also important, right? She says one cannot revolt against nature. And I think that's so true. And it's been proven true again and again and again throughout history. And I mean, these images that we've been looking at are scary and real. But I also, even feeling that fear, I look at that image of an iPad or something hooked up to that fetus, and it's like, I'm sorry, but an iPad is never, ever going to be able to produce a healthy, happy human being in the way that a woman's body can. And 5G connectivity is never, ever going to top like being with someone and being able to touch them and look into their eyes without the creepy like see-through mask thing in between, right? Like they'll never do better. They'll never do better than actual nature. Like you're never going to find a medicine that's better or more powerful than the sun or mushrooms, right? Plant medicine. So I think, yeah, maybe there's some solace in that.
I do believe that's true. I worry that people can acclimate. So then this was good. I Kenny, I appreciate you bringing up this episode. And
yeah, that was a good idea.
Yeah, folks should know that I think next week we'll be having Allison here, who for me, she's in the background of all this discussion. But I think we're going to be talking about blockchain and some of the discussions that are coming up about the viability of blockchain and things like that. But I think also educating people and educating ourselves about what is blockchain. So I look forward to that. Yeah, and Jessica, thank you for taking the time to put those images together as well. And I think we are going to do another episode to go over some stuff that's just around education. And
I feel like there's so much there. Yeah,
being laid out there, which is all connected to some of the stuff that both of you were showing, but particularly metaverse and Roblox and things like that. And also, I saw some stuff on creating the Teachers Without Borders kind of networks of you can get a teacher anywhere if you can just get them online.
Rent them.
All right. So that does it for this week's episode. What's Left is a weekly political podcast channel challenging the mainstream left. We post information about our topics and our guests on the episode notes wherever you found this episode or on our blog, what-s-left.webnode.com. You can find past episodes of this podcast there and connect with us. I remind people, if you like anything you've heard here, please subscribe, rate, review, turn on your notifications to any of our 9 platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Bitchute, Odysee, YouTube, Telegram, or Rumble. And if you'd like to give us feedback about something you've heard or suggest something for us to cover, contact us through our blog. So that's it this week. And Jessica and Kenny, thanks again for your hard work and putting stuff together. And people should pay attention to those billboards out there and see what messages they're sending us. So see you next week.